What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the KindaFunny Xcast, your home for all things Xbox here at KindaFunny. Of course, I'm one of your hosts, Snowbike Mike, and today I'm joined by my two gaming dads, my best friends over here, Mr. Paris Lilly and Gary Witta. Gary, I'll start with you. What up, big dog? How's your day going? How's your week?
I'm good. I'm a little bit tired. I'm a little bit sleepy. It's been a long week. I haven't been getting enough sleep. One of the fun aspects of being a parent to a 7-month-old is you don't get as much sleep as they do, which is often not very much. Paris is love because he knows what I'm talking about. He knows only too well.
Oh yeah, I bet he knows it very well. I'm over here laughing because I'm sleeping well.
Gary, I know you're sleeping like a baby, ironically.
Over here on my side, so I don't know about that one. I can't relate quite yet, but I will say, Gary, I've been sleeping well, playing a lot of games, and I know that the comic is out. Of course, you have Batman Fortress now out. Everybody's been enjoying that. You just did the KindaFunny podcast all about it, but when can we expect issue number 2 and beyond?
So it's on a monthly schedule. I'm not sure the exact date, but the one that's out right now came out May 24th. So I'd expect to see issue 2. I know there's an exact date flying around somewhere. I don't have it in front of me, but it would be like sometime in late June, like in the 20s. Somewhere in the 20s of June, issue 2 will be on the shelves.
All right, rad. Well, everybody listening and watching out there, go check out Batman Fortress issue number 1 right now. A little 8-part series from Gary Witta himself, so you can go have some fun with that. Turning it on over to my guy, Paris Lilly. Paris, what up? How are you today on a Friday?
I'm good. I've missed you all the last couple of weeks. I've been traveling and doing some stuff with the kids because, see, I have teenage kids and dealing with all that. So we're like right now we're in the last week of school. This is the last day of school for high school and junior high. So just dealing with all that stuff. But no, I'm good. Doing good.
Like Paris, I got a question for you. Both of my gaming dads here. My dad always made it special the first day of school, and every single morning he would wake us up with like records and some loud music to get us out of bed. But every day on the last day of school, it was always "School's Out for Summer," the song, and he'd blare that all day long downstairs. Do you do anything fun for the kids to make it special, maybe for the last day or the first day?
When they were little, we did. Now that they're older, absolutely not. It's like, no. Matter of fact, my son basically all week was negotiating. Dad, I don't really need to go to school. There's nothing to do. Why am I going? Just let me stay home. And I was like, no, absolutely not. You're going to school. Why do you get to stay home? It's the last few days of school. Just go and be done with it. It's like, you got half days all week. It's like, why are you complaining? But it's the age we live in now. So what are you gonna do?
I had the exact same conversation with my 9-year-old. She was like, why do I have to go to school on the last day? Why can't yesterday have been the last day? And I was like, well, if yesterday was the last day, you'd be complaining about that being the last day. And why do you have to go to school that day? It never ends.
No, it never ends.
The pretzel logic of kids will warp your brain.
I like their mindset. I was always a kid that was eager to go because I didn't get to see my friends that often over the weekends. So like Monday for me was, oh, I'm excited to see all my friends again. I can't wait to go back. So I never wanted it to end, but it's been a long year. I'm sure everybody's ready for summer. And guess what? Summer's right around the corner because today's episode is all about the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase for your big summer event here on the Xbox side of things. So we're going to jump into it in the best way that KindaFunny does it, was the fun predictions episode. I've asked my two gaming dads to bring in some awesome predictions that they think will happen during the big game showcase. And of course, I asked you, the KindaFunny best friends all around the globe, some of your predictions, hopes, and dreams. And so I'll read off a couple of best friends' fun predictions throughout this episode. But let's jump right into it because this is the KindaFunny Xcast. We post each and every Saturday at 6 a.m. West Coast, Best Coast time on youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, roosterteeth.com, and on podcast services around the globe. Don't forget you can support KindaFunny in a multitude of ways. If you're watching over on YouTube, smash that subscribe button. If you're on your favorite podcast service, please give us a nice 5-star rating if you like the show, or give us some feedback with your star rating. Also, don't forget, if you are buying games off the Epic Games Store, or if you're buying V-Bucks and getting ready for the brand new season of Fortnite, please use our Epic Creator Code at checkout, KindaFunny, anytime to help support the team. And speaking of support, of course, we want to give a big thank you to everyone who supports us over on Patreon. All of the live chat right now who's watching over on Patreon, thank you for backing us there. And for our Patreon producers for the month of June. So shout out to Gordon McGuire, Fargo Brady, Pranksky, Dan, Golden Spider B, Tyler Ross, Delaney Twinning, First Responder ND, Julian the Gluten-Free Gamer, James Hastings, and Casey Andrews. This week, the Kind of Funny Xcast is sponsored by Chime, Credit Karma, and Me Undies, but myself and the team will tell you all about that in just a little bit. Guys, let's jump right in. Let's share some predictions. Let's share some hopes and dreams for the big Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase. We're going to go round robin on this one, so we'll go around the table. Paris Lily, you're going to kick us off. Give me one prediction to start off the show. What do you think we'll see next week?
They're going to announce
Okay.
that Game Pass is finally getting the family plan. That's going to be something we're going to see at this showcase. Just makes sense at this point. We've all talked about it for the last couple of years that, me being a family of 5 and having 4 people in the house, that game being able to have that family share plan, it just makes sense. It's going to make my life so much easier to be able to have that all under one plan instead of doing all the mental gymnastics that we do right now to trying to have people playing games on Xbox via Game Pass. So I think that's going to be a big highlight for them. I think you're going to see a lot of parents rejoice when they do it. I think the big thing out of that is going to be, what is it going to be priced? And I know we talked about that in a previous episode, what we're guessing it's going to be, but the more affordable it is, the better, obviously. So I'm excited to see that, but that's one of my early predictions.
I like that prediction, Paris. And I have that written down in my offerings, right? I have games and then I broke it down to the offerings after that. And it's interesting, right? I think last year we kind of touched on it. I think Aaron Greenberg kind of stated like, hey, this is all about the games, right? And then as we turn our attention to this year, we do know that the Xbox Design Labs website is currently down right now. So they're doing something behind the scenes, maybe going to surprise us. But it's interesting you bring up the offerings, right? So like Paris, to me, we've had these conversations of, oh, that could have been a blog post. Is the family plan to you beyond blog posts? This is where you put it on the center stage to get people really amped up? Or
I think
is it more blog posty thing?
No, I think it is. I think this is something that you want to shout to the heavens and let people know, because you're going to have a bunch of hardcore gamers that are playing, but you're going to have a lot or watching, I should say, but you're also going to have parents that are watching as well, people that have families. Like whenever we talk about this stuff on social media, I'm always shocked at the replies. There's so many people that are anticipating a family plan coming for Game Pass that I do think it's something that is worthy of having its own segment on the show that you talk about. You name the pricing, you talk about how it works, the whole thing. I think that's something that will be newsworthy because it is needed because you have a lot of families out there that want to take advantage of this. And like I said, for me personally, it's going to make my life so much easier. It's going to make a lot of other families' life so much easier as well. So I think this is something you'll see.
All right, Gary Whittle, let's stick with the controllers for just a second before we get to your prediction. You're our controller guy. You're all about collecting these controllers. Xbox Design Labs last time got shut down before the big show. Then Paris dunked on Khalif Adams. We'll never forget that, nor will Khalif. What do you want out of the new updated Design Labs? Because we've already had a new updated Design Labs last year, essentially. What more can this team add to get you really excited for that?
I had not thought about that at all, and I didn't know that the Design Lab was down. I know that they just recently added this very cool Pride theme controller that you can customize. I like that. But in terms of like, why, man? I mean, because this is all new information, so I'm just going to react into this on the spot. Why would Design Lab be down? The only thing I can think of is, and this isn't the most exciting thing, but maybe for some people, is if they added the Elite controller to the Design Lab lineup. What if you could design? What if you could customize your own Elite controller? That's that, because what else? I mean, there's only so much. Like the Design Lab already allows like so much customization, and there's really only one base controller. Like, what else could it be? Well, the Elite controller's out there, and I have thought over the last year or two. When I saw that Master Chief Elite controller, I was like, man, look how cool, because it's a different finish, right? It's more. It's higher end materials. It's more metallic. Like a custom Elite controller has a different look to a regular Design Lab controller. It's very, very cool. I think it would be pretty expensive, but I imagine I suspect that they would get more people jumping in on the Elite controller if they could customize it and make it their own. Be very interested to see what kind of design and customization options might be available on an Elite controller, given the different materials. Given the different price point, given the fact that you can swap out the D-pad and you can do and add the paddles on the back and stuff like that. That Master Chief controller, I think, is my favorite Xbox controller in terms of the aesthetic. It just looks so good, not just because the color scheme is cool, but because you can tell it like that metallic that you only get that on higher end materials. It really looks nice, and so I that would be exciting. But I can't think of is there anything else it could even be? The elite thing's the only thing I can think of.
I saw, and I don't take credit for this, I saw people speculating, what if you could make custom Xbox Series S's as an example, right? Where you could do custom colors or designs on that. That would be an interesting, but I'm with Gary. My immediate thought was, okay, the Elite controllers. They're going to allow us to make custom Elite controllers. And like a moron, I was just looking for my Halo one, and I realized as I jumped my whole thing out behind me, it's out in the other room, so I can't even show it right now. But
just something to add to that as well that occurred to me as Paris was mentioning that is that the Elite controller that is out there now, the Master Chief one, is still not a Series S/Series X controller. It doesn't have the share button. It's still it's still the Elite 2, but it's a last gen controller. So maybe it's a double whammy on the Elite controller lineup. Elite 3, which would have the share button, which would be fully updated for the new generation, and customizable via Design Lab would be cool.
And it's time, because if you remember, the Elite 2 was 2019. So it's been 3 years. So it's time to see an Elite 3. And like you said, add that share button to it. So maybe it's almost a double whammy of they announce the new Elite controller. Everyone gets excited for that. Then they go Design Labs. Oh, by the way, you can actually customize Elite controllers moving forward. I think that would be a huge one for them too.
Yeah, that's a big win for me. As everybody knows listening, I'm on my 5th Elite controller. I keep breaking them, and I am the jabroni that will pay a nice pretty penny to customize my own, knowing that I'll probably break it pretty quickly.
After
but
seeing
I am
how
excited.
You whip Joy-Cons out of your hands, Mike, again, I feel like that's a user error. That's definitely
it could be a user error. But when I look at the normal controllers, I'm looking at, okay, well, myself, Paris, and Gary, we've spoken to James Shields before over on the Xbox team, who helps the Design Labs team, of like what that looks like once we get into the special editions, right? There's the basic colors, but then we saw the Daystrike camos. We saw the different designs of what that could be. I could see them elevating that and having more offerings of what your kind of ground level design is, and then you add the color on top. But it is a good call for the Elites. I think it is time, and it would be really cool. I'm a little hesitant on the price tag. I think that will kind of wow people at how much this is going to probably cost if you design an Elite controller.
I mean, the Elite controller is not cheap.
We'll see. Yeah, no doubt about that, Gary.
Yeah, but I think it's more of just having that option there. You don't have to get it. You can obviously still design the original controllers as well, but having that option that if I know I want an Elite, I'm willing to spend the money for an Elite controller, and I can customize it so that it's my own. Yeah, why not?
All right, Gary, it's on to you. We've talked Xbox Family Plan for Game Pass and controllers. What do you got for your predictions here for the show?
So I was thinking about this earlier today, and it's tough because I usually these things are really, really hard to predict, right? Like I always kind of look at them retroactively, and I think, well, how many of those things were really that predictable, right? Because the fun things, I always say this every time we talk about these things, the really fun things in these showcases are the thing that you never saw coming, the thing that nobody predicted. It's boring when you just go, yep, saw that coming. Oh yeah, they finally showed that. Like you want to do something that's like, oh wow, totally out of the box. So I don't know, and I've not had a great success. The only thing I can think of, like from a previous thing that I kind of predicted was, and it was more of a wish list that came true than it was like a real prediction. But you remember how much I really wanted Super Mario Strikers for the Nintendo Switch? Well, now we're getting it, and I was like super excited. I was, oh man, they actually did what I wanted them to do. So as I was really kind of focusing less on what I think we're gonna see, like actual predictions, because I think that's kind of a fool's errand, and more just like what I want, what I hope I want to see, what I hope we'll see, and I'll hope those things come true. So the first thing I had on my list was the return of a classic Xbox gaming franchise. We've talked about this many times before, and I'm not referring to a specific one. I'm just saying, like, I think a classic Microsoft Xbox gaming franchise will come back. Maybe.
I mean, Gary, you could say it to the people. You want brute force. Okay, you want brute force.
You want brute force. You want Fusion Frenzy. You want all the ones that no one. You want Cameo. You want the ones no one else remembers. I want either Crimson Skies, which I've gone on about so often. I think a new Crimson Skies with modern technology would be incredible. Or, the one that we all want. Phil listens to this podcast often enough. Surely he's going to pull the trigger. Give us Banjo-Kazooie. Give us what we want.
Well, you know what he did the other day, right? Because that lit up Twitter. He played Banjo-Kazooie the other day.
Oh my god!
So
well, I mean, that's it. It's nailed on.
He's either trolling us or he just happened to like Banjo and wanted to play
it's
it. So
nailed on.
Paris, where do you fall on the Banjo? Because there was that kind of rumor speculation that Double Fine was going to pick up the mantle of Banjo. We kind of know Tim Schafer doesn't really want that or like that, but like, do you think that could be real?
Here's where I am. Because the rumor you're talking about was them basically remastering or remaking the original Banjo-Kazooie, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want that.
Okay.
If you're bringing Banjo back, I want Banjo in an all-new adventure. That's what I want. Like, look, at this point, I'll take whatever I can get. So if that's what they're doing, fine, I'll take it. But I would rather have a brand new Banjo adventure. That's what I want to see from them. But I could see them remaking the original Banjo-Kazooie, obviously modernizing it. Because if you go play it right now, it definitely looks dated, coming from the era that it was from. So if they did remake it, modern graphics, the whole thing, so it looks better, it's still a great platformer for what it is. But I want a new adventure. I that's what I want.
With
so
Rare, working on, continuing to work on Sea of Thieves, and then what was the game they announced forever ago? Everwild. If we get a new adventure, would you be accepting of it being developed by someone that isn't?
I expect that. Yeah, I expect it to not be Rare. Okay. My expectation, it's going to be someone else. And kind of like Mike said, there was rumors of Double Fine potentially doing it, but regardless if it's them or not, I don't think Rare's doing it because, like you said, their hands are full.
And I think that would be fine. Microsoft's got access to so many studios now. There's plenty out there that I think they could do a good job with it. So I'm kind of split on this one. I'm like 50-50 with Paris in that. Unlike him, I'd be content with a remaster of the original game. I still think it would be cool to see the original game brought back and kind of modernized. Not just aesthetically, but again, you're kind of cleaning up some of the gameplay and just making it, something that would really play, in the modern day. So that's kind of where my wish list and my prediction kind of split. The wish list would be aligned with Paris, an all new Banjo-Kazooie story. But I think if I had to say what I think is the more realistic prediction, I think a remaster. Like if we knew, if it was out there, like, oh, Microsoft's doing something with Banjo-Kazooie for this showcase, what do you want? What do you want to see? What do you think it's going to be? That's where I would split. I would say I would want an all new game, but what I think it's more likely to be would be some kind of remaster.
Harris, when we talk about old school games, I know you've been the Banjo guy. I continue to bring up Conquer, and I would love Fusion Frenzy. I think that is the perfect Game Pass fit and a great multiplayer game to get people excited. Is there any like old school games like a Brute Force or anything that you really would want to see come to 2022?
Believe it or not, and I've said this in the past, I really liked Cameo.
Oh, okay.
Which was a launch game for the 360. I think that, I mean, I'm sure if you go back and play it now, it probably, is very dated, but I think the concept of what it is, being Cameo and being able to change into these different creatures and like all the, what was it, like ogres or trolls, that these hordes of them that you would attack and fight. I think that concept of what that original Cameo was, if you were to quote unquote remake it or continue that adventure, I think it could translate well to modern gaming. So I would love to see them try and bring that back. I just
remember when that 360 launch lineup coming out, that Cameo was just a game that like no one was excited. It was like the one title out of that launch lineup that everyone just went, whatever. It was like the knack of its day.
I enjoyed it. I really did. I really enjoyed it when it came out. I was a fan. I thought it was fun.
Lineup. What a great time. We'll have to talk about that in another podcast.
It makes me wonder as well, like, are we setting ourselves up for disappointment? Like, are we in this weird echo chamber where we're the only three people in the world who give a shit about Banjo-Kazooie? I never hear anyone else talking about it. Nah. Is it just us?
No, we're definitely not. Other than Khalif being a big hater. And whenever I talk about it outside of here, like you see on social media, a lot of people get excited for it. Because the reason I even knew about Phil playing it was there was a whole thread on Reset Era where they were speculating about it and getting excited, going, "Oh my God, I hope Banjo is at the showcase." So it's such a great IP for when it came out, right? When it was on the Nintendo 64, and then obviously Microsoft, acquired Rare, and I just felt they dropped the ball with it. There was so much potential with that IP in the 2000s that they just did nuts and bolts, and that was it.
And here's the other thing: it fills a gap it's
Yes.
a big, like Microsoft, they don't have anything like this in there. Like they don't
Nope.
have a character platformer. Sony does. They've got character platformers coming out of their ears, right? They've got Ratchet and Clank, they've got Crash Bandicoot, they've got all this stuff. There isn't, and Microsoft's got a pretty good lineup. Like, you know, if you want a shooter, if you want a driving game, if you want whatever genre you want, they've got you covered. But if you want like a cartoony, character-based, you know, platform, like a Mario type game, they don't have anything. And this, so, you know, it feels like this would kind of fill a gap in their lineup.
I will say, well, we did get Psychonauts 2 last year, which you know, some of us would say was the best game of last year. The last thing I'll say, and the thing that makes me doubt that we're gonna get a Banjo-Kazooie this year, much like the past years. I wonder if they're still waiting for the right team to be ready. I really don't know who would be making this right now. I know some people in the chat are talking about some of the Activision studios, but because that isn't, you know, fully gone through yet, like I wonder if that's in the back of their heads now that that's kind of like becoming a thing in the next couple of years of like maybe we need to wait for the right kind of team to take this on before we try to force it through and it just kind of comes out kind of half-baked with the wrong team.
I mean, if and when this Activision acquisition goes through and they inherit all those studios, right, they're going to be spoiled for choice. But maybe, maybe you're right.
Yeah. I think, you know, if Banjo doesn't come, and we keep saying this every year, unfortunately, but Banjo's going to come back. It has to. And like you said, if they haven't already identified a studio to do it, I mean, they will. But it's just been so long, and they've obviously flirted with this, you know, the teases with Nintendo bringing the character. It's like they know there's a demand out there for that character or characters, and like you said, maybe it just simply comes down to they've not found the right team.
I just sometimes feel like the three of us have descended to like QAnon levels of like JFK Jr. is coming back. Like we're
going to be the ones.
Grunty is in the grassy knoll.
And every time the appointed date comes and goes, like the next show doesn't. Yeah, but it'll be on the next one. Like we're just never going to give. We'll never lose faith.
So for me, I want to talk about one of the beloved studios, the studio we always talk about, kind of referred to as the workhorse, Obsidian. We have a lot of things to talk to about Obsidian right now. Of course, we saw the big tweet from Josh Sawyer, one of the game directors over at Obsidian. He is the one who is teased and rumored from Jez Corden to have his own project, Project Pentiment, on the way. And he has put out a tweet that says, anyways, with the emoji of painting your fingernails, as if maybe it's their turn to show off what their game is. So I do believe we will get Project Pentiment's reveal at the game showcase. But then when I go down the list, of course, we have Avowed, Grounded, and Outer Worlds 2. I wrote down for Avowed, I think we are going to get gameplay, and it will be dated for summer 2023 is where I'm going to put my target at. Grounded 1.0 release, I put a question mark. I know that the team over at Obsidian is aiming for this year to have the full 1.0 release, but I think for this presentation, we'll probably just see the more content similar to Sea of Thieves, Age of Empires, games like that where they're ongoing and moving forward. And then for Outer Worlds 2, I wrote, nah, I don't think we'll see that. I think last year was the big fun trailer of, hey, we're going to do this again, but we're definitely far off in advance. So I think we'll focus on Avowed. We'll see some Grounded, but I think Josh Sawyer's game is going to be the game where we're all going, okay, what is this? That's the rumored RPG that's going to be like Disco Elysium type style gameplay, which will be interesting. But what do you guys think about Obsidian?
You pretty much nailed my thoughts. I pretty much think exactly what you're saying. The only tweak I would say is I see Avowed being holiday 2023, and not summer.
I like that.
But I do think we see Avowed this year. Gameplay, they'll date it like you're saying. I'm thinking more holiday, October-ish, 2023, because I think you want to put some distance between that and Starfield. Assuming Starfield, you know, does come in the first half of 2023.
You know me, Paris. I keep putting Starfield in November next year. I'm giving them a full year is what I've decided. I want Starfield November.
Honestly, would not shock me either. But trying to take them for their word for what they're saying right now. But yeah, I do think we see Grounded dated this year 1.0. It's finally coming, you know, the coming out party for it, so to speak, where, you know, all the community feedback, all the work that they've done over the past few years. And now here we're able to deliver our 1.0 product for it, which, you know, still taking it back to last year when I had the opportunity to talk to Obsidian about it, it blows my mind that 17 people made Grounded. Blows my mind. Still blows my mind to this day.
I think Grounded 1.0 coming out today.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah,
coming out today kind of thing where, like, because they kind of know who their audience is, they've been slowly building that up for whenever they launched their kind of early access stuff. Like, they might have the expectation of, like, we'll realistically see a little bit of a bump launching at 1.0, but we know who we're making this for now, and I know, like, with other things like this, they would want to, like, have some time to promote it for a couple months before it comes out. But I think this would be a fun one for those fans to be like, hey, we've got the full launch and we're ready to go 1.0, and it'll be available later today, kind of thing.
Okay. Gary, any thoughts on Obsidian, a beloved, of course, development team over there? You've seen a lot of their RPGs. Any thoughts on their team over here for the summer?
I mean, largely in agreement with you in that I think, they given that they already said that more Outer Worlds is coming, there's the next step after that is like a full reveal. And so, like, they've already done the announcement that it's coming. And I think it's too early for, like, a real, like, presentation. So I don't think you'll see anything other than there might be just, yeah, we're still working on it. There might just be a little reminder that it's something they're doing. But I do think that this is a perfect opportunity to show more of Avowed, which was, even in just the little that they showed, people were obviously really interested based on the style of game that it was and the developer. So, if we're thinking about things that we know they're working on and are due like an update, like, we know you're working on it, the little cinematic you showed us was cool, but, like, when are we really going to see something? Avowed is on that list. So I feel like that if I was a betting man, if I had to actually make, like, a cash bet on one of these predictions, I feel like that's one of the safer ones.
Like that, Gary. Well, let's continue the predictions right after a word from our sponsors.
This episode is brought to you by MeUndies. I love MeUndies from head to toe, all over my body. If you don't believe me, of course, right now, I'm wearing the MeUndies shirt. You can tell by the little tag going on right there, right? I got the MeUndies lounge shorts going on. Of course, I got the undies, and then boom, MeUndies socks, baby. That's how we do out here at KindaFunny. I love being soft head to toe in the micro-modal fabric. You already know all about that, but if you don't, let's face it, summer's sweaty, but your butt doesn't have to be. With MeUndies light and breathable micro-modal fabric, you can stay comfy and cool all summer long. They have super fun seasonal prints and tons of styles to choose from, but if you just like classic black, that's totally cool too. They got a bunch of just bold colors for you to go for. They have super fun seasonal prints, tons of styles, and sizes extra small to 4XL, so you can bring the beach to your butt without ever leaving your living room. MeUndies has a great offer for all of you first-time purchasers. You can get 15% off. If you sign up for their free-to-join membership, you can apply that 15% off to their already discounted membership prices. To get 15% off your first order and 100% satisfaction guarantee, go to MeUndies.com/KindaFunny. That's MeUndies.com/KindaFunny. Tell them Tim Getty sent you. Shout out to Chime for sponsoring this episode. No one likes waiting on a paycheck, especially when you've got bills due. Good thing there's Chime. Now you can get your paycheck up to 2 days early without direct deposit. That's up to 2 more days to save, pay bills, and generally just feel good about your money situation. But Chime is about more than just getting paid early. It's also an award-winning mobile app, checking account, debit card, and optional savings account. So what are you waiting for? Hopefully not your paycheck. Get started with Chime today. Applying for a free account takes less than 2 minutes. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. That's CHIME.com/KFgames. Banking services and debit card provided by the Bancorp Bank or Stride Bank NA. Members FDIC. Early access to direct deposit funds depends on payer. Get started at chime.com/KFgames. Shout out to Credit Karma for sponsoring this episode. Want a new credit card but not sure how to choose? You don't need to apply for the first offer that you see in the mail. Credit Karma can help you zero in on the right option for you and apply with more confidence. I love Credit Karma. I've been using it for years to check my credit profile, make sure everything is good and on the up and up. Credit Karma uses your credit profile to show you offers that are tailored to your financial situation. Credit Karma partners with a wide range of card issuers, so you can be sure that you're exploring all sorts of options. Best of all, Credit Karma uses your credit data to show you your chances of approval before you even apply, helping you apply with more confidence. Comparing cards on Credit Karma is 100% free and, most importantly, will not affect your credit score. That is huge. Credit Karma, create your own karma. Ready to find the right card for you? Head to Credit Karma and check out your personalized mix of offers today. That's creditkarma.com, or hit up the Credit Karma app to find the right card for you. you. That's creditkarma.com.
All right, guys, welcome back. Let's continue it going. Harris Lily, you're up. Give me another prediction.
I'm going to take it back to Rare, and I think we see the rebooted Everwild, where now where this is what Everwild's going to be. Not necessarily that's coming anytime soon, but they get to kind of quote unquote reintroduce what it is and, you know, put it back on people's radar.
When you say rebooted, did something happen? Was there some development drama or something?
It has been heavily implied that Everwild has been reimagined. Like they didn't know what final game was going to be, so they kind of, and again, I'm speculating here, but they kind of started over on what Everwild's going to be. So I think this is kind of their chance to come out and say this is what Everwild is going to be, versus leaving people hanging.
What I remember from that, what they showed first time around, was it was the game that that had most people saying like, okay, but what is that? Like there was no way to like figure out what the hell it was, right?
Right.
Yep, that's exactly right. And it's so interesting, Paris and Gary, when I think of Rare kind of almost has like this like get out of jail free card because they have Sea of Thieves, right? And they do have a beloved audience over there. And as Paris and Gary, you guys both know, we've had Joe and Mike on the show before from Rare, and we've talked about what they're doing with this ongoing story content each month throughout this year, right? And so we're hitting the halfway point. We will now have the fate of Golden Sands in our hands by the time Xbox and Bethesda Showcase happens, right? So now we can kind of get the reset of, hey, we're halfway through the year. This is what the second half of our ongoing story is going to be. So I feel like they kind of have the easy way out of, oh, let's just focus on that. I think a lot of people have probably, they maybe think of Everwild, but I doubt a lot of people are like, oh, Everwild's on my mind. It's a must see, right? And so that game to me feels like, oh, you could just not show that for a couple of years and most likely people will not care or even notice. But it is almost time, Paris, where the diehard fans who are keeping eyes on Rare, they do want to know, what are we doing with this, and what kind of time and resources are you putting into Everwild for sure?
Yeah, completely agree.
Gary Whitta, it's your turn. Give me what you predict. Give me another one.
So in that spirit, in terms of something that was shown before, but not in any detail, and now it feels like the time would be right to give us a little more. And this is a wish list first and a prediction second, but I don't think as a prediction it's that far out. I want to see some Fable. I want to see some gameplay, and I want some real details.
Here, school him. There's no way. There's no way.
We are not getting.
Why? Why not?
They're not showing Fable. They're not going to show Fable.
But why?
It's not ready. It's not ready to show. I think. Well, if
I'm sad now because I said it was a wish list first, but like they showed it. I know they only showed a cinematic, but that was a while back. Like, you really don't have anything to show.
Well, again, you weren't on this episode with Danny. Danny and I have been going back and forth the past few weeks that I originally said I wouldn't hold my breath for Fable until 2026. And then I kind of rescinded that. Yeah. And then I rescinded it and said holiday 2025, because I just think when you think Starfield, when you think Avowed, they already have so many first party RPGs coming up soon. Plus you don't want to rush Fable. You want to make sure you nail this and get it right. When you start putting the pieces together and thinking about it, we know it's not going to come this year. It's not going to come in 2023, maybe 2024, but I doubt it. So that puts it 2025 for me. I don't think you show gameplay this early. I think the earliest you show Fable gameplay is probably next year, 2023. That's me speculating. I don't know nothing.
So what about something in the middle? What about like another check-in on Fable, but not like
I can
another CGI of the world?
But do you really want to see another CGI trailer on Fable?
Yeah.
I've said before, like, I think you only get to do like a CG no gameplay trailer once. Like the second time around, people will actually want to see.
You got to show gameplay. I agree.
Yeah.
But it's
in my notes I have 2023 summer.
But it's also in like that weird spot where Gary's right. Like we have not heard about it since they announced it 2 years ago at this point.
Yeah.
So now you're in like that weird in between of like, do you just stay quiet until you're ready and let people hang on for another year so there's no update for 3 years, or do you at least give an update after 2 years and show another CGI trailer, maybe a little bit more than what they showed with the announcement, just to have a little bit more of a tone setter? Yeah, that's a
especially given
one.
it's one of their more high profile titles. Like Fable is big. You know, when you think about Xbox, yeah, you think about Halo first and Forza and Gears of War, but you think about Fable too. Like historically, it's been a big part of the Xbox, history.
It is.
I guess my argument again on that, I'm the Debbie Downer on this one, but I think when you show it, it needs to pop. I don't think little teases and hints for that. I think whatever it's going to be, they're obviously using the Forza engine for this. I think it needs to pop with some real gameplay that is representative of what the final product is going to be. We even obviously saw the little kerfuffle that's happened this week about them, taking some content out and kind of scaling back, which we've learned is a part of the normal dev process. But the point remains on that. Is Fable in a state right now that they can show some realistic gameplay for it that could appease fans, or do you just go dark and not show anything right now? I think they have enough other things that they can show at the showcase that they don't need to show Fable. That's why I don't think they're going to show it. But that's just me. I'm Debbie Downer. If I'm wrong, you can boo me. All right, whatever.
All right, I like that. You can boo Paris, but I am on the side with Paris. I think that is a game you show next year. I don't think we can do another CG trailer, even if it's just the world and showing more of the theme again. But keeping it going with some fun. I have a lot written down here, so we'll see how far we get to. But I'm going to go with one we hear a lot of right now, coming from Special Nick in the Xbox Era podcast, the Marcus Phoenix Collection. Everybody, in Paris, I see you shaking your head. For all the podcast listeners, I actually am similar to Paris. I'm going to have a conversation about this. A lot of people are leaning towards this Marcus Phoenix Collection, hoping for Gears of War 1 through 3 and Judgment to possibly have a nice new look with Unreal Engine 5, maybe get a sweet package like we got with Master Chief Collection. It's a weird one, Paris, and I'll go to you first because I am torn on this. I'm more of a Halo guy than a Gears guy. I've lived through all the Gears. I really enjoyed the Gears, but I don't tend to go back to them or think that much of it. But also here on the podcast, we always get asked, hey, I just got an Xbox. What should I go to? And we do like to point towards the Master Chief Collection. I think it would be nice to have the Gears of War collection, of course, on Xbox and over on PC for the PC players. But this doesn't draw me. This isn't the one that I want personally. And I just don't know if this is the answer. What do you think, Paris?
I'm with you. This doesn't, push the needle for me, so to speak. You can already play all these games. They're already available to play via backwards compatibility, and they look fine just as is right now. They're on Game Pass. There's already an availability for these, and then they already did kind of a somewhat of a remaster of the original Gears for PC. So I don't see a need to have a Marcus Phoenix collection. It doesn't make sense to me to do that, because let's also remember, part of the appeal of the Master Chief Collection was going to be all those multiplayer maps and synergizing them all together and being able to play together. People are not going to go back to play multiplayer on these old Gears maps. They're just not. So I don't see the appeal. I don't see the appeal for this, because again, if I want to go play Gears 3, I could literally turn on my Xbox right now and go play Gears 3, Gears 2, the original, on and on, Judgment, whatever. I don't see a need to package these all into one thing and try and resell it as something that is new. Well, not new, but you get my point, when they're already available. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. So no, if they do it as rumored, okay, fine. But I'm not seeing a lot of people getting excited about this.
If you do this, I would be more excited about a Gears Tactics too. I thought that was a nice time with
that
Gears
would make
Tactics.
more sense.
I would be more excited about that, but it is an interesting one because I don't know. I'm just not into that. And I see some people on Twitter in the community that are excited about the idea of this, right? But it just doesn't sell me and get me pumped up.
The only thing I could think of, and they just simply don't have enough time. There's not enough development time for this to be a reality, is if you took the original Gears or the collection, whatever the case how you want to think about it, and you redid it in an Unreal 5. That might, okay, let's check that out. Maybe almost as a sneak peek into what they're going to do for the next Gears on Unreal 5. But there's not enough time to do that. There's no way they've had enough development time at the Coalition or whatever studio with Unreal 5 to make that a reality and to have it come this year. I don't see it.
I don't know. I'm gonna set myself up aside from you two on this one and have a little different take on it. I don't see why not. One thing that this industry loves to do and is very good at doing is repackaging and reselling you shit you already own. They're so good at it. And nobody complained about Mass Effect Legendary Edition. They did a good job on that. Those games aren't necessarily that much older or any older than Gears of War. The original Mass Effect and original Gears of War. I'm going to embarrass myself here, but I think they feel like they're about as old as each other. They came out roughly around the same time, right? 360 generation. So it's not like Mass Effect was super old, but they did a good job on refreshing those games. I think like a Gears, like it would have to be like a proper remaster, right? They can't just like slap the original games into a box and put a bow on it. I think if they were to go back and like re-engineer those games and make them look the way that make Gears of War look the way it would if it was launched today on the Xbox Series X, there might be something there. I mean, I still have a lot of fondness for those games. Not so much the multiplayer, but like I loved those campaigns, Gears 1, 2, and 3. I enjoyed the hell out of them, and I think if they were to bring those up to a modern graphical standard and whatever other little tweaks and gimmicks they want to add on, I don't know. I think there'd be a market for that.
All right, Paris, before I let you go on your next one, we're going to pause for a quick best friend write-in because I need to be schooled by my two gaming dads. My favorite part about having you two here is you guys can teach me about the old school games and why they're so beloved and bringing them into the future. And so RSXL writes into the show and says, I'm guessing Microsoft will try to fill the holiday gap with a Deathloop Definitive Edition. Keeping it going where I want to focus. I'd like to be surprised by some other Bethesda titles, ideally a Quake reboot, similar to how Doom was rebooted back into the spotlight. Guys, I'll tell you, when Microsoft and Bethesda brought back Doom and Wolfenstein, these were my first entries into those franchises. I loved them, fell in love with Doom and Doom Eternal, all the Wolfensteins, even Youngbloods I had a good time with, even though it's not as good as the other two. But it is cool to see these franchises that I know from a long time ago were relevant, now super relevant now. What's up with Quake? Paris, can we get a Quake reboot, and is it worth it?
It feels like it's about time, right? I think so. I'm actually surprised that we haven't already gotten a Quake remake or a new addition to it. It's a fun multiplayer shooter, arena shooter. It just makes sense. So that actually, it's funny because that was kind of on my list as well of things that I think we'll see. There'll be something Quake related. I mean, obviously okay. Bethesda has a Quake presence. They have QuakeCon, for God's sake. So yeah, I'm thinking it's time. And I can see this not just being on the Xbox. I think this is multi-platform.
Gary Whitta, you're the old school PC guy. You got fond memories of Quake, and should I be interested in this?
Yeah, I used to be the office champion of Quake 2 back in the PC gamer days. The last first-person shooter I was ever any good at, and he was competitive at, was all downhill after that. I love Quake. It's, to me, for PC gamers, especially those of a certain vintage like me who were playing PC games in the 90s, it's one of the games, right? It is an absolute classic. The problem is, over the years, I feel like it's kind of like it's always been a little bit overshadowed by Doom, which came first and was bigger. And, obviously Doom's already had a very, very successful renaissance with, the new Doom and Doom Eternal, which are fantastic. I thought they did an amazing job of bringing those games back. They're unrecognizable from the original Dooms because they're so more far advanced, and yet they still feel like Doom, right? It still has that Doom flavor. Could you do something with Quake? The issue I have is that Doom and Quake aren't really that different. They're very kind of generic, running around, shooters without much of a story or anything. Like Quake never had much in the way of mythology or lore. It always had this very kind of brown and gray color palette that wasn't terribly exciting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the Quake games, and the first two and Arena, they were so good. And I had a real Quake nostalgia trip recently. I don't know if you're aware, but they did a great update on the original Quake where they added ray tracing and all kinds of beautiful effects. It was like Quake running on my RTX 3080. It was just as a sight to see, right? I used to be excited when I get 15 frames a second out of that game on my piece of shit Pentium 90, watching it run on the kind of machine we have right now. What a treat. And it is exciting to think about, like, if you think about what Bethesda did with Doom, right, and how they took the original Doom and like made it what it is today, which is this phenomenal looking, probably the best pure all action shooter game, of the modern era. A truly worthy successor to like that classic heritage. Could you do something similar with Quake? Yeah, maybe. I'm kind of talking myself into it. Actually, I think this could be good. Why not? Okay. It's out there. right? It's just like that Quake IP is sitting on the shelf, waiting for them to do something with. Again, the problem is, does it cannibalize Doom, right? Because I think there's probably going to be another Doom, right? And again, in terms of like pure gameplay, Doom and Quake aren't terribly differentiated, and I wonder if they would have put, maybe instead of doing like the next Doom, they do Quake instead. I think it would be weird to have two very big, splashy, all action shooters that aren't terribly different from one another. It was like, back in the days at id Software, they kind of, lived they didn't really live side by side. Like they did Doom 1 and 2, and then they moved on to Quake, and like they left Doom behind. They came back to Doom 3 much later, but it was like, okay, we're done with Doom. Now let's go do Quake. If they were to bring back Quake, you'd kind of have Doom and Quake living alongside one another. I worry that they would cannibalize each other a little bit because they're very, very similar.
All right. I love having you both here to school me and teach me about that because I didn't know anything about Quake. Barrett showed some B-roll. You guys got me hyped up, and what they did with Doom and Wolfenstein, I'm all about. So you can make that relevant with me again for sure because I love a good.
Get 9 Inch Nails back, and then you've really got my interest.
Paris, on to you. Let's keep these predictions going because we got a fun one going on. What do you got for me, Paris?
Well, we're talking Bethesda, so let's stay in Bethesda. Wolfenstein 3. Let's tease it. Let's do it.
Don't get my hopes up, Paris. Tell me.
I want it. I need it. I want to see it, please. So yeah, that would be mine. I think it'd be nice because I don't think Machine Games is showing Indiana Jones. I don't think Indiana Jones is what we will get from them first under Xbox. I do think it'll be Wolfenstein because I'm pretty sure they got multiple teams working at that studio. And if you look at the time frame, it makes we're about there that we should be having another Wolfenstein. So I think this would be a great opportunity for them to show that off.
We're definitely there, Paris. In my mind, Wolfenstein 3 this fall would be incredible, right? And that's the one I really, really want from Machine Games. I'd love to go back to this series and this franchise because it is so, so good in what they did. My only concern is Indiana Jones, right? And is the focus on that now, Paris, right? We got the teaser before. Now I could see us in my mind getting a CGI thematic trailer, right? We kind of get that like, hey, here's Indy, here's the music, here's the vibe of where we're going. But then I think to myself, well, the movie is next year. Are we tying it in with the movie? Are we really showing off stuff before the movie even has an official trailer? I mean, clearly it's not going to be old Harrison Ford, so it's not really the movie, right? But when do you do this? And I in my personal opinion, if Wolfenstein 3 isn't here, clearly they're just doing Indiana Jones, right? Like Wolfenstein 3's got to be here, right?
Yeah, you would think. I mean, but like you said, the movie's not coming until next year. I got a feeling that it's after the movie. I don't even think it's before. So I would think the earliest we hear anything about Indiana Jones is probably next year. So I think you talk about Wolfenstein now. I don't think Wolfenstein comes this year. I think it's probably a 2023 game, if anything. But I think they can at least announce it this year.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if we don't see Wolfenstein 3 this year, I think that's ways out if they're not ready to show it this year. I'm with you, Mike. We're probably the one thing that they're focusing on then is Indiana Jones, and we'll see Wolfenstein 3 way later on.
One tear down my face. I'm looking for
I know,
Wolfenstein, and I know a lot of other people are too.
God, I want it so
Gary
bad.
Whitta, keep it going. What do you got for me?
So this one's actually kind of a continuation to the theme you guys were already on. My next prediction was going to be, I think we will see the first look at the next major new entry in a core Bethesda franchise, right? And and that could be Doom, but we've already talked about that. Maybe whatever the next thing after Doom and Doom Eternal would be. I think the Doom games have been tremendously successful, but again, maybe they pivot to Quake again. We'll see something in that space. Or it could be, again, you just talked about it, a new Wolfenstein. And then the other one that I was thinking about that like we haven't talked about yet, but it's like either Fallout 5 or, and I'll give you the title. This is the crowd please. I'll even give you the title of it right now. New Vegas. That's what people want.
New Vegas. I like that. We're not going with New Vegas too. New Vegas.
Newer Vegas.
Okay.
Call it whatever you want. But so here's the thing. Look, Fallout, obviously, again, it's another one, right? Which I think needs a bit of love. Like Fallout 76. I don't know what kind of state it's in now. I think they did kind of right the ship on Fallout 76, but that launch was a mess. Fallout 4 was the last kind of core title in that franchise. It's been a while. It's for like when you think about Bethesda, you say, "What do you think about?" You think Bethesda? People say you're going to say Fallout right away. It's their number one thing, and so there's got to be at some point, right, a fifth one. Again, whether it's Fallout 5 or whether it's something else, but like I feel like after Fallout 76 cost them a little bit of goodwill, I wonder if they're thinking, let's go back to what we really know how to do, which is story-rich, sprawling, single-player Fallout. Let's just get back to the core spine of these games. So I'm thinking of Fallout 5. Again, more of a wish list than a prediction, but nonetheless, Fallout 5. The next big single-player Fallout, basically.
It's a good wish list. I mean, Paris, you and I and Gary have talked about it. That's an Obsidian one, right? New Vegas. And the dream was maybe have them come help, because the word on the street is we think that Fallout is super far away, right? It is going to be Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 and then Fallout. Do you still think that holds up, or do you think Todd and the team have somehow reshuffled and they got all three of the big franchises and IPs somehow in the works and really moving?
Yeah, I'm actually going to disagree with Gary in the sense that I don't think we get a new Fallout for a long time. I think they're going to try and keep iterating and riding out 76 and making that the Fallout game for now. And kind of like you said, New Vegas, I think once Obsidian gets on the other side of some of their other projects, it almost just seems like a no-brainer. You got to give it to them to do a Fallout New Vegas. But an actual Fallout 5 proper, I almost wonder, would Todd Howard want to do that himself after he's done with Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6?
And you touch on what I think is probably the one big flaw in my argument, which is like, well, who makes it and when, right? Because between Starfield and Indiana Jones and Elder Scrolls 6, like there's only so many people at Bethesda, right? That's a Fallout 5 is not something you throw out to a little team on the sidelines. That's a core, that's a core game. So it might well be that they are just so occupied with new things, with Starfield, with Indiana Jones, and the next Elder Scrolls. When I say when you think Bethesda, you think Fallout. I think you could obviously put Elder Scrolls. I think equally those are the two big ones. So it could wait. It's weird because Fallout again is such a centerpiece of what you think of when you think about Bethesda. The idea that they would just like leave it on a shelf potentially for years while they do other things just seems kind of odd to me.
I think the argument, the pushback on that would be, well, we have 76. Look at all the great expansions that we've done. Look at all the things that we've done to rehabilitate this game in the interim. I mean, because 76 is at the point now where, I mean, you can go in and basically play it like a solo Fallout game if you want to. You don't have to have the co-op experience.
The launch was very bad, but from what I understand, they have done a good job of kind of getting it back on track. But for Fallout purists, though, that's if you said to most Fallout fans, would you rather Bethesda focus on just iterating and building out 76, or would you rather like a full-on Fallout 5? Come on, you know what everyone's going to say.
Yeah, they're going to say 5, of course.
All right, for my next prediction, I'm going to give us a little two-parter. I'm going to take it to the track because it is time for Turn 10 and Forza Motorsports to show off some gameplay. And, I mean, of course, when you're showing off Forza, you got to have a dope car. So I expect us to have a really dope car in the background. But I do believe a fall 2022 date will be in the cards for this. And then my second part is, Gary would have brought up a day one launch. I'm thinking day one, day and date, right when you see it, Forza Horizon 5 DLC. We have now gone almost 7 months without like a major content update. And I know a lot of Forza Horizon fans are excited for the DLC. I think it is time, right, as we start to look at the life cycle of games, to hit us with something. So I think we will see Forza Horizon 5 DLC. And I would love to see day and date after it's been almost 7 months after launch. So I think it's time to rock and roll and bring back some breath of fresh air and some life into Forza Horizon 5.
Do they typically do, because I like the games, but I'm not an aficionado. Do they typically do big major DLC drops for the Forza games?
Oh, badass ones.
They do?
They got some badass ones for
and
sure.
Hot Wheels, yeah.
Hot Wheels they've had Fortune Island, which is a really cool one. And of course, a lot of people will tell you they love the Lego partnership that they had. The Lego DLC.
Oh, that's right. I remember
really,
that
really
one. Yeah.
Cool, Gary. Yeah. So, I mean, this team does some really awesome DLCs for their games. And of course, as much as we loved Forza Horizon 5 last year, I think they're going to build off of that. Do we go up to the volcano? Do we get some more snow in the mix? Are we going off to another island and kind of making its own little home from there? It will be interesting to see how they add on to it and what they do, because the Lego one was special. And then you think of Hot Wheels was wild, is right, Paris. That was a wild addition there.
Yeah.
So what are they going to do? It will be cool to see for sure. Paris, what do you got for me?
So I'm gonna pull a wild card here. I think we get a sequel to a game that my family has loved for the past few years. Minecraft Dungeon 2.
Oh, that's a good one, actually.
Okay.
I think the game's been out enough. They've had some great DLC that's come out for it over the past year or so. But I think a full-on sequel to Dungeons, I can see it. You know, obviously all the co-op aspects in it, new locations, everything. I think maybe you add some building elements into it. Like there's a lot of different things they can do to iterate this off of the main Minecraft game and iterate some of the things that they've obviously done in Dungeons as well to justify having a sequel to it. So that's going to be my wild card. That's going to be my no one was expecting.
No, that's
this.
good. I didn't think of that. I'm looking at the footage under the B-roll that Barrett's playing in the background right now, and it just reminds me what a fun game that is. Minecraft Dungeons it was such a brilliant idea. You know, like we have this franchise, we have Minecraft, right? Most popular game on the planet. What can we do with it? Well, let's make like a family-friendly Diablo game in that universe. Absolutely brilliant idea, brilliantly executed. It's obviously been hugely successful, and that is a game where they have really, really gone above and beyond with the DLC. There's always something new. I think they believe it's either coming up soon or they just dropped it because it's 2 years old now. Minecraft Dungeon has its 2 years anniversary is around now, and they're doing like a big 2-year anniversary DLC drop. So they've done a terrific job of supporting it. That kind of feels like it could be the next logical step. It's obviously been a tremendous success for them.
Yeah, I mean, and we talk about games that could come out this year. I feel like if they did do something like that, it could come out this holiday. Like we said, it's a family-friendly game. Everybody can jump into it and play it. The whole co-op stuff, all that. It's on Game Pass, it's on PlayStation, everywhere. So why not? So I trust me, I would be very excited. I'll be at FanFest cheering if they announce that one.
I like that, Paris. And that's one for me. It's like, I think that's a good answer right there, because the big question on a lot of Xbox gamers' minds are, when are we getting that updated version of Minecraft that we've seen so much of, right? With the ray tracing enabled and the kind of new, fresh look to it, because we're definitely not getting a Minecraft 2 at all, right? So when do we, the Xbox console players, get that next updated version to really push the awesome equipment that we got inside these consoles? So I like that. And I would like to see the next updated version. Would make me happy.
That's
Gary,
just on that point, because my kid is obsessed with Minecraft, so I know a lot about Minecraft whether I want to or not. I actually installed that ray tracing when people were talking. I installed that ray tracing mod because it's only available on the Windows 10 version of Minecraft. Minecraft's so weird, right? There's a Java version and there's a Windows version and there's separate things, but it's all very confusing. And my kid's really into the mod scene now. She's installing all these insane mods. That ray tracing, given that Minecraft is it's a very cool aesthetic, right? The blocky aesthetic, but it's very, very basic. And when it's amazing, and I was talking about Quake, like you can take the most basic graphics and add really good lighting effects via ray tracing, and it totally changes the way that the game looks. Like Minecraft with and without ray tracing on is so incredibly night and day different. With the ray tracing, it looks phenomenal. So I'll add a little bit. I'll add a little something to your prediction here. Ray traced Minecraft coming to Xbox Series X.
I could definitely see that. I think it's time. So I know there's been rumors, so that would make a lot of sense.
Okay, Witta, hit me with another one, please.
I was thinking along the lines that you were, Mike, when you talk about like games and offerings. Like, here's a bunch of new games. Like, what else are we up to? And Paris touched upon it with the idea of the Game Pass family plan. I think it's probably too early, but maybe not. We know it's coming now. We've had all these leaks and rumors. I think maybe there'll be a little something on that dongle, whatever that thumbstick or hockey puck is that we keep talking about. We know it's a no-brainer. We know it's coming. Is it something that Phil Spencer's going to hold up and show us? Probably not. But I mean, maybe they'll at least officially confirm that they are working on something. And now there are even more ways for you to join the Xbox universe. You can just plug a little thing into your TV and not even have to buy an Xbox. Maybe something like that. I'm trying to think what else there would be. I've got a couple of ideas for what there might be like in the non-game, the non-software offerings, but I feel like that we've been speculating about that dongle for a long time. It seems to us to make a lot of sense. We've started to now see some rumors from places that have been right about things in the past saying, no, yeah, they are working on it. So given that it has happened in recent weeks, maybe it's time for Microsoft to say, yeah, here's like the next evolution of, because that's been their big thing, right? More games in more places. We want everyone to play. We don't want you to have to buy a console. You can play games on your phone. You can play them on your PC. You can play them anywhere. I think that dongle is such a next major step in the evolution of that philosophy that when they've got a lot of eyeballs on this event, it feels like it would be an appropriate place to talk about the next step in their, kind of unshackling you from specific hardware.
Gary wants that dongle, y'all.
I do.
This
I
could
want
be
it.
your summer. Who knows, Gary? Maybe it is time for that. But I'm going to hit you with a two-parter as we start to run low on time. We're going to make it pretty quick here, but I got a quick two-parter to end our prediction segments. Number one, let's talk about Ninja Theory. Here's what I got planned in my mind. Ninja Theory and Hellblade 2 have a good connection with Jeff Keighley. We saw it, of course, over at the Game Awards. I think we're going to get a two-parter of Hellblade 2. We're going to see it at Summer Games Fest with some combat and some story. And then I think we're going to get a release date at the Xbox and Bethesda Summer or Games Showcase the following weekend. So I think we're going to get a little two-parter from Ninja Theory with Hellblade 2. And I do think we will get a slated and dated version of this, which will be exciting for a lot of people. Probably Q1, spring 2023 is my dream. I don't know, though, but that is where I'm going to go with Ninja Theory. Paris and Gary, what do you think about that for my part one here?
No, I think that's pretty smart. I think, like you said, the relationship has been there. Being basically the first ever Series X gameplay footage we saw was at the Game Awards back in 2019, and they obviously followed it up here again last year. So for them to logically continue that into Summer Game Fest, show us more gameplay, and then go and make sure you tune in on Sunday for more for Ninja Theory and Hellblade 2. Makes a lot of sense to me. I think that works.
Now I want to bring up my part two. Of course, we've kind of talked about the pillars of Xbox, right? We've talked about Forza. We've talked about Gears. We need to talk about Halo and 343. Because if we remember a couple weeks ago when we talked about Season 2 and what was going on over at 343, I said, hey, I don't even think you show up to the summer event, right? We don't have enough. We're not ready. Maybe we don't show up. I think after our talk with Joseph Staten, I think I've kind of switched gears here. I think you got to have your pillars at these big events, and somehow you have to get people reinvigorated and excited about Halo. And so for me, when I look over at Halo and 343, I think of two things. One, is Joseph Staten going to surprise us with some legacy maps? I think if you were to come out at the Summer Showcase and say, hey, we have 4 to 8 legacy maps that are dropping now or within the month for Halo Infinite, I think is a big win and will get a lot of Halo fans excited. And then as well, I know campaign co-op has been pushed quite some time, but even a teaser video of 4 Spartans running around Zeta Halo Ring and really showing you what that co-op experience is going to feel like and look like would also be a big win, even though we've waited so long and I know a lot of people are frustrated at it. I think those are my two ways I could see Halo coming out here and surprising all of us on that one. What do you guys think about that?
I feel like there's going to be something on Halo. How can there not be, right? It's their thing, right? Master Chief and Xbox, they're synonymous, right? He is the mascot. He's Xbox's Mario, right? Whether that is a good analogy or not, it's the number one thing that they have. And on the one hand, you think, well, what would they even show? They just dropped Season 2, right? So that wasn't long ago. Like, what really new stuff would they have to talk about? On the other hand, as Joe acknowledged when we had him on the podcast recently, they are in the process of kind of trying to win people back and earn a little bit of trust back after a very, very successful launch and a nice kind of honeymoon period in the initial weeks of the launch where we were all loving the game. There's been some bad vibes, right? People have started to kind of sour on the game a little bit. The roadmap has not been as ambitious or as forthcoming as we would want it to be. Like the game has not grown enough in the time that it's been around, and people are starting to get a little bit jaded. And there's more. Modern Warfare is right around the corner. There's more shooters coming. There's other options out there. What is Microsoft? What is Xbox and 343 going to do to kind of get everyone back on board? This is their biggest event. It could again. Sometimes you just want a bit of popcorn, right? It could just be something as simple as like Blood Gulch is back, like all your favorite legacy maps are back. Maybe something with Forge. Like we just want something. No one's expecting to hear about Season 3 or Halo Infinite 2 or anything like super ambitious or down the road. But I think like maybe they're thinking like maybe there is a little popcorn, maybe there's a red meat we can throw at them this event in the form of, because we hinted at it, right? When Paris said, I want to see some legacy maps, Joe said, that's a good idea, in a very kind of nudge, wink, wink kind of way. So even something as simple as that might be, you can't do an event this big and not at least check in on the biggest property that you have, right? I don't think so anyway. So I think there'll be something. It's just a question of like, is it going to be just a hand wavy thing, or will it be something of substance that'll actually make people go, oh, that's interesting. We don't know. There'll be something.
Paris, any thoughts on that? Do you think we'll see the big dog there?
Yeah, I'm with you where obviously I was like, there's no way they're going to show anything. But I think since we talked to Joe, I'm kind of, and obviously with the Starfield and Redfall delays, I'm starting to think differently in that, yeah, Halo probably has a presence there, but I'm going to throw a monkey wrench into it and say it's what certain Affinity is working on.
Oh, you think it's Project Tatanka over there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you show that. I think you show that if it comes this year, if that is our Season 3 surprise, show it now. Show it now.
Yeah.
If you want to get people excited about Halo and give them a reason to want to stay committed to it and come back to it in the fall, that if what is rumored is true, I think that could do it.
Oh, if that's a battle royale, that will be a big pop for sure. If that's truly a battle royale, it'll be a big pop. Let's wind down our conversation with a fun write-in from another kind of funny best friend. My dog Nick 96 writes in and says, I don't even care for the series, but as a fan of fighting games, Killer Instinct comes back. Guys, where do we fall on Killer Instinct? Because when I look at the fighting game world, there's a lot of great titles out there. We just saw Street Fighter 6. That's coming to Xbox over here. Of course, you have Mortal Kombat galore. You have so much more. Where does Killer Instinct fall? Because I see a lot of people like Jez Corden talk about it, of like, people want this franchise, but do we really want it? Where do y'all fall on Killer Instinct?
I think a lot of people are just talking. I think realistically, if they brought Killer Instinct back, I'm not sure it's gonna grab enough of the audience that it's gonna need to be sustainable. I think they obviously tried it before and it didn't get the traction that they were looking for. I don't know. Could it happen? Of course. I'm gonna say doubtful.
Yeah, I definitely would want to chime in on that question. Is it something that people really want? I don't know if Killer Instinct is something that anyone ever really wanted. I'm old enough to remember when it was in the arcades, when it was on the N64, and people kind of wrote it off for what it was, which was a Mortal Kombat clone that wasn't as good as Mortal Kombat. Now they did obviously reboot it not long ago, and kind of brought it into the modern era, but no one really cared that much then either. And the fighting game scene is very competitive at the moment. There's a lot of good options out there, and look about just like what's happening right now. Like we know that Mortal Kombat is killing it right now. Mortal Kombat is great. I'm sure there's more Mortal Kombat around the corner, and that's again, why play Killer Instinct when you can play Mortal Kombat? I think is the view that most people would take. You got Street Fighter 6 right around the corner as well, right? Sony just showed that off. There's a lot of good fight. I just always felt like Killer Instinct has never really justified a reason for its existence. It's like, why do we need this? I understand why you're doing it, because people like Mortal Kombat and you want to do something. There was so many Mortal Kombat clones after that game, after Mortal Kombat originally came out in the 90s, and they all kind of died away. And I think just through like a force of will, they kept Killer Instinct around because it was rare. It was Nintendo. It was in the arcades. It was a big deal. But it wasn't ever. It was always more hype than it was substance. And like I don't know. Like, can you really imagine? Like, I know this isn't a live type event, but can you really imagine? Like, and if Phil Spencer or whoever got up and said, "And we're bringing back Killer Instinct," like, is that really going to raise the roof? Or are you hearing the one guy at the back, going like his mom?
Well, it's funny. I'm 100% with you on what you're saying, Gary. But in a weird way, there is going to be a live reaction to all this stuff because they're doing Fan Fest, right? And when they obviously, we know they're taping this all ahead of time. But when they show it, I'm sure the Microsoft people are going to be at these Fan Fest events. They're going to see what the crowd thinks real time, and these are the most hardcore Xbox fans are going to be at these Fan Fest events. So to your point, I think if they were show Killer Instinct, I think you have a few cheers, but I don't think it's going to be.
You never really do get crickets at these events because the audience is all all kind of psyched up and they'll cheer for pretty much anything.
Yeah,
I've seen all kinds of events in the past where like, really, you're cheering for that? But then you get like the really big ones where it goes to an 11 and people like the baseline is like at least a polite cheer, but like when the really big stuff comes, that's when the roof goes off. I don't think Killer Instinct has ever been a roof raiser.
Yeah, it'll be polite.
Roof raiser right there. Okay, well, let's talk about roof raisers. Our final question of the show for you two right now. The initiative, Crystal Dynamics, Perfect Dark. Will we see Perfect Dark in some way, shape, or form at the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase? Paris Lily, you go first.
No.
Okay. Gary,
if I can't have Fable, you can't have Perfect Dark.
Exactly. I mean, legitimately, that's my thought. I think for the same reasons, I don't think you won't see Fable. I don't think you see Perfect Dark.
Okay. It is really interesting, right? We talked about it at the beginning of the year, the partnership of Crystal Dynamics and, of course, the initiative. What does this look like now? What do players really want out of Perfect Dark, right? Because this is an old school franchise. It is another first person shooter, right? And I think we've all kind of talked about we want that story driven third person narrative action game, right? And Perfect Dark being a first person shooter, that's not really fitting the mold. But of course, you kind of put a lot of time and effort into building a brand new studio. You would hope on the Xbox side that they're bringing the absolute heat. And is Perfect Dark that franchise? And now with this partnership, we don't really know where we stand. Of course, Crystal Dynamics, known for those awesome Tomb Raider game, but where are we at right now? So I am interested to see that. I am down that we probably, I agree with you, won't see this year. I think this is another one like Fable where 2023 and beyond will probably be our time to get some more info on this game. But it does stink as Xbox fans to have these big reveals of games, the future, right? These new games that we all want, and then kind of go quiet or like, oh, that's way off in the distance. We're not there yet. It kind of stings and hurts a little bit as we get to the next year and the next year. And you're kind of left questioning where we at with certain titles. So Perfect Dark, I will agree with all of you. That is a no for me. But guys, it's time to say goodbye. We got to get out of here. I got to get you all. Oh, Paris, yeah?
Well, no, because I want to make sure we get this in. Couple things. I do think what is it? Contra? What is it called?
Do you have a moment? Yeah, perfect. So I was going to go through that in the intro.
Contraband. I think we see that. I do.
Okay. Yep.
And then when we talk about a raise the roof game,
okay,
they either open or they close with Starfield, and I think it's going to blow us all away. I think we will see it and go, oh, if y'all need some more time to do this, take all the time you need. I think it'll be one of those reactions. I'm surprised we haven't
mentioned that either, because like the last news to come out of Starfield was a bummer, right? That it was delayed. Right. So maybe a nice way to kind of respond to that is to say, listen, it's going to be worth the wait, and here's why.
And I originally thought maybe we wouldn't see Starfield at all, but then when I thought about it, I go, if it hits what they're saying, it'll be out before the next showcase. So you got to show it now. You have to show that in Redfall. So Redfall and Starfield will be shown at the showcase, but I don't think we get the long Todd Howard deep dive that we're all speculating, but I think we will see enough gameplay of Starfield that it will leave a positive impression on everyone. I think at these fan fest events, I think everyone's going to be applauding when the credits roll on it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I'm so pumped for Starfield, and I do want to learn more about Redfall and how I can be excited about that game, but I'm definitely all aboard on Starfield. And thank you, Paris. That was going to be my segue is, hey, we just had a great episode, but there's so much more to talk about, right? Like third-party partnerships of Contraband and Avalanche. Will we see gameplay and a date? You got Scorn. You have 40K Dark Tide. You have so many projects like Project Belfry. You have Project Midnight over with Compulsion Games and In Exiles RPG. There are a lot of question marks and a lot of games that could be showing up here that we can get excited for, but we just don't have the time to talk about it. But you know what? We will have the time because on Sunday, June 12th, you can expect the KindaFunny crew to do a live reaction of the Xbox and Bethesda Showcase. We will film a Xcast immediately afterwards with the live breakdown of everything that was shown there. So if you want more predictions, if you want more excitement, if you want the live reaction, you can catch us over on twitch.tv/KindaFunny. youtube.com/KindaFunnyGames, where myself and the team will live react to the Xbox and Bethesda Games Showcase, along with the breakdown for your Kinda Funny Xcast of the week. But for this week, you got to have a fun predictions episode with Gary, Paris, and myself. Paris, talk to me one more time.
I got to make sure I get this in, because unfortunately, I will not be on the post show, because I will be in LA at Summer Game Fest, and I will be at the Xbox Fan Fest on Sunday the 12th. So again, if you're in LA, if you're going to Fan Fest, I'll be there. Please come say hello. I'll be very excited to meet you all. But one other thing that I want to make sure I get in, and I fully expect they're going to announce some third-party game that's going to be in Game Pass day and date that will blow the roof off the whole place. I can sense it that they're going to do that. So
the Wild 2.
There you go. There you go.
Elden Ring.
Nintendo. Yeah, Elden
Exactly.
Ring. No, but I'm sure people thinking like Gotham Knights or stuff like that, but it's going to be something that you're like, wait, what? That's coming to Game Pass?
They need something bigger than Gotham Knights for sure.
Yeah.
I like that.
I think so.
Well, of course, it wouldn't be a show, Gary Wood, if I didn't say, hey, Team Xbox out there, Phil Spencer, 1 versus 100 this summer, this fall. Let's make that happen.
Yeah.
That would be a great way to bring us all together.
That is a roof raiser. I'm telling you, so many people who remember how good 1v100 was on the Xbox 360, they want it back.
And
we
guess
want
what?
it back.
For everyone watching live over on Patreon, or if you support us over on patreon.com/KindaFunnyGames, our post show is going to be all about GoldenEye. And is there really an audience for a GoldenEye reboot, remake, remaster, whatever you want to call it, if it is true and real? But we'll talk about that in today's post show. With that, thank you all so much for tuning in. Let us know your predictions, hopes, and dreams in the comments down below. If you're watching over on YouTube, thank you so much for watching and listening. Enjoy your summer weekend. Go get some sun and play a bunch of video games. If you see Paris down in LA, make sure to say hello to him, and we'll see you all next week. Goodbye.
And if you see Danny Payne, you tell him he lost, he owes me dinner. There you go. Goodbye.